So calling today's meeting of Albany Social and Economic Justice Commission to order. Roll call, please, Laura.
Commissioner Boehnen.
Present.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo.
I'm here.
Commissioner Grossman.
Here.
Commissioner Cannoli. Oh, were you muted?
I'm here.
You're here. Commissioner Lindsay.
Here.
Commissioner Zapata.
Here.
And Chair Dosty.
Here. Thank you. Item 2, approval of minutes. I have 2 amendments. The first amendment is under item 2. For absent, it's just blank, but everywhere else for absent, it has the word none. So I believe it should have the word none, just to be clear that nobody was absent on that item. And under number 6, it says Chair Dosty nominated herself, which is not my pronoun or my gender. My pronouns are they, them, so it should say that Chair Dosty nominated themselves. Please pass that along to Cyber Terry for the future. Thank you. Any other amendments to the minutes? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes is done by vote. Laura?
Commissioner Boehnen.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli.
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata.
Yes.
Chair Dosty.
Yes. Minutes are approved. And item number 3 is public comment. It's 3 minutes per public commenter. Please raise your hands now. Giving folks a moment as there are no hands currently raised. I know we just started, so revving up the gears. Seeing our first hand up, and if you would bring them in, please.
I don't see any hands up.
I just saw it go back down. You're correct. If we have no public comment, we'll move on. I see the hand come back up. Do you see it now, Anne?
Yes. Hi. This is Margie Marks. I just wanted to announce that last week I attended a Zoom meeting that Sophie Hahn put on. She's the District 5 supervisor for Berkeley. And it was Chairperson Karina Gould of the Ohlone community speaking about her history and about the Ohlone history in Berkeley. They thought they were going to get 75 people. They got 800 people. And even it went longer than it should have. And at the end, there were still 700 people that were there at the end of that session. So people are interested. We have a place in Albany where they're revitalizing Ohlone culture. And I think, that the public in Albany would love to hear what's going on with the tribes in our own city, let alone in our whole area and what it meant. But I think that, there was a great interest. And I would really like at some point the SEJC to look at some of these topics that could be put out there, for discussion amongst the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, Margie. Not seeing any other hands raised, giving it 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, and closing public comment. Okay, and on to announcements. Any announcements from commissioners? Each item should be about a minute. Anything? Not seeing any hands. Okay. Bart, excuse me, Commissioner Grossman?
You can call me Bart. That's my name. So I just spent some time this afternoon looking through minutes for some items that I know we took up in past meetings. And I want to make a comment that I make unfortunately often, which is that the action minutes are really unusable. There's just no information in them. And I don't know what we can do about it, but I know this was something the council adopted, but really for anybody who has no knowledge or history with any of these committees, there's just nothing you can glean from the minutes that's of any use. And there were numerous discussions that I think would be relevant to things we've talked about, but there's no record of them. So I just wanted to raise again my concern about that.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Zapata, Vice Chair Zapata.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce that there is an organization in the city of Albany named Familias Latinas de Albany. And this is a parent group of Latino families. And they're meeting actually right now on Zoom. And I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to them. I couldn't be at their meeting tonight, but they organize cultural events where they do cultural events on virtually, as well as organize different events for young people, especially because they're parents that are rooted in the district. And so right now they're starting to organize for a special day called El Día del Niño. So this is a day to celebrate children. And yeah, that's my announcement.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements?
I have a staff announcement.
Staff announcement.
Yeah, just a reminder about the advisory body training that's taking place on Thursday, March 18th. Mark your calendars. It's from 4:30 to 6. And this is a virtual webinar on Zoom. Highly encouraged for all advisory body members, since this training will include an overall orientation and a Brown Act session that's going to be presented by the city attorney, who will also be answering questions anyone might have. So that's really cool. And I believe each one of you should have gotten an email from Anne pretty recently. I don't know the exact date, with a link to register in advance for that event. So definitely check that out. And again, that's Thursday, March 18th from 4:30 to 6.
Thank you, Commissioner Lindsay.
I'm just wondering, do you know if they're going to cover the January updates to the it was January updates to the Brown Act?
That's a good question. I'm assuming they will be, though. And
Can you just make sure?
Yes, they will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other announcements? I'll mention that yesterday was the annual Disability Day of Mourning, in which we observe victims of filicide by caregivers or parents for having a disability. So that was yesterday. And there were a couple of vigils, including by Berkeley. And I think they're recorded if folks want to look this up. Seeing no further announcements, we'll move on to, there are no presentations today. So we are starting with the work plan under 6-1 so that we can get right into that today. We are familiar with this item. I don't think we need to go over the staff provided documents again. We've seen it. This time I've converted my concept mappy thing into more of a Word document-y thing, but again, it's still just brainstorming, and I'd love to hear what all of you have to, because oh my goodness, brainstorming and putting together a work plan amendment thing and what we want to do. So this is open. Commissioner Lindsay.
So this is going to sound really bad. All right. But I think we need a plan about making this plan. So we probably should have a meeting to plan how to make the meeting for the plan for the meeting for the plan, but no, just all kidding aside, it's a big task to make a work plan. And it's almost like a strategic plan for a business or a group. They're not easy to put together. And especially if we're going to be really intentional about specific goals with dates attached and priorities and stuff like that. But I do think some of the things we want to look at is what people, so what are the city's needs, right? And how do we fit in with the council's strategic plan, which is supposed to be the city's needs basically, but there might be some variance there. And then maybe we prioritize those. And so this is just one way we could do it. So number one would be needs. I don't have a whiteboard, but otherwise I'd be writing it up there. Number one would be, what are the needs? Number two is we prioritize it, but somewhere in there, I'm not sure where this fits in, what people's interests are, which Corey has asked once or twice, and I've written some stuff down as people said things, but it's not very official. Interest in not only of commission members, but maybe people that don't happen to be on a commission but would like to contribute. I mean, not on the commission, but would like to contribute anyway, because it's a lot of work to be done, and there's only 7 of us with some staff support. So, but once we have needs and priorities, then we can try to figure out like what can, we could say, what are some actual goals we can set and how are we going to achieve them, right? So that's one suggestion of a framework for how we could develop, a work plan. Number 1, needs, number 2, priorities, and number 3, goals, and somewhere in there getting interests, right?
Commissioner Grossman, I saw your hand go up.
Yes. One of the things that I'm finding a bit confusing is someone said at one of our first meetings that council was in the midst of redoing its strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding it difficult to think about how to identify where we fit in when we don't have a plan to look at. Many of the items on the old work plan are things that council assigned to us. And I don't know whether they continue to be assigned or not. I'm a little confused, for example, by the fact that council is now having direct presentations on some of the things that we used to be or were or still are responsible for. So I think we can talk about the things that we're concerned about, certainly, and begin to organize those. But we really can't complete a work plan until we see what the council wants us to do.
Right, and let me address all of that. So first, I think this is not about a complete work plan, because we are going to have to revise it again once we get the council's strategic plan. This was about, we didn't feel like we could do much of anything without adding some of the things we really wanted to do, because the work plan that we received from the last SEJC had a few ongoing things, but nothing that was really active, but we wanted to be active about things, which is why we started forming subcommittees. So this is more of a very short term, and I think that might help with this seeming like this really big thing that we're then going to have to turn around and do again. It might be helpful to think of this as, what do we want to push to council right now as, hey, can we add this to our work plan? And so that we can start working on it sooner than July, because otherwise we have to wait until maybe June to get their strategic plan, and then we try to ask for things, making our work plan. And so priorities, I think, is the key thing here of what do we want to get working on right now. And addressing presentations, I believe it was said last night in council that those were scheduled a year ago for council, but pushed out because of the pandemic. So these presentations are supposed to be both to SEJC and to council at different times. But because of how things have been pushed, some happened to SEJC late last year, and now they're at council right now, and we'll get them again later, is my understanding. And I see Laura nodding to that. Yeah, Commissioner Grossman.
I'm sorry to talk so much, and I'll shut up in a minute, but there's one more thing I wanted to say, which is that for me, the elephant in the room is the equity impact plan, and what we're doing with that, if we're doing anything with that. We ended last year with an interim report. And is that going to be the end? Are we ending with an interim report, or is that continuing? And while we were doing that, it was really absorbing most of our time. And it was led by the consultants, and different people have different feelings about how useful that was. But I do think we need to come to some decision about whether we're going to continue that or not and how.
Agreed. I think that is one of the pressing, do we continue to work on that right now? And in what way, especially given the consultants are being scheduled by staff and it's not clear when they can come back. Commissioner Garrett Benguela?
Yeah, so here on the agenda, 6.1, it says, we're discussing work plan goals. So here on the work plan, it talks about some of our goals. Goal number 1, foster a healthy, sustainable urban village. Goal number 2, engage our diverse community. Goal number 3, we have a couple goals here, right? And so one of them, objective 3, says anti-racism subcommittee. Have we designated an anti-racism subcommittee yet?
We have not yet, no.
Okay. Well,
Can you specify where that is?
yeah, it's on the work plan, 2019-2021 work plan packet. On page 5. It's a objective SEJC work plan, strategic plan goal.
On page 5.
Yeah, strategic plan goal number 2, engage our diverse community. Yeah, under objective 3, continue to promote community inclusivity. Just says anti-racism subcommittee. I don't know if we formed that yet.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yeah, by the way, since I talk a lot also, if anybody else has their hand up, I'll go after them, okay? Just as a matter of getting multiple voices and going. Yeah, I saw that too, and that's nice that it's there. I think it's the most important item just for me. I'm not saying it needs to be everybody's most important item, but in my opinion, it is. And I'm frankly very unhappy with the pace of or lack of anything really happening. You know, I think there needs to kind of be a sense of urgency on this particular issue. And the longer we wait, the more that people will, that honestly, white folk will forget sort of the most recent horror, and there will be less and less sort of energy and openness to change. But I think it's still there. But we need to move. You know, I have an idea of what we might want to do as a first sort of thing, but that's maybe getting a little too much into the weeds. What Jeremy was referring to was the current official work plan that we have. And we had said that we wanted to suggest some changes so that we could work on additional things, you know, before the new work plan comes out. But on this issue, we don't need to suggest any changes. We could just get going. And I would like to see sometime tonight us form that subcommittee because there's just nothing that stops us from moving immediately on it.
Yeah, Commissioner Zapata.
I guess I need some clarification. So I don't see a 5-page document. Jeremiah, you have a hard copy? So obviously what the public has should square with what we're talking about. And, you know, this is a public meeting. So I'm really concerned that we time out and figure out what documents we're talking about, because all the documents that I have linked in the agenda are not 5 pages, number one. And number two, I think it's important to clarify what your notes are, Chair Dosty, that are really just notes that you've made. There's not necessarily anything official about this yet. It's just a great brainstorm, but I think we need to be really careful to parse that out. And the second thing is, or whatever the third is, that I just want to be careful that Jeremiah, what you're talking about, we're clear is either a brainstorm that you've done, Chair Dosti, or is the official, which if I look at the work plan, I don't see that. So I'm wondering if we can do like a timeout, catch up, and then I have other comments, but I want to get that clarified.
Yeah, where I see the language of anti-racism subcommittees, on my notes, which is SEJC work plan draft notes, it's attachment 6-1B online, and printed out. It has bullet points that don't have numbers in front of them, and those were entirely my brainstorming. If it has a number, it was on the original official, which is also in the separate document. But if it is just a little bullet point, that is my brainstorming. And it is in a place where I think it could go, but it is not something that language was used around in the official existing work plan. Commissioner Zapata.
Yeah, so I'm wondering about a process forward, because I really I want to echo, I think, a lot of sentiments at the end of the meeting last time, which is that we have a lot of work to do, and that that there are things we could start in on with, and I worry that we start to lose energy. So I wonder about a process of there are two, it looks like, council strategic plan goals, which is to foster a healthy and sustainable urban village. This is what we currently have right now. And then there is a strategic plan goal of engaging our diverse community. And under each of those, there's one has one objective and the other has three. Okay. So I'm wondering if there's a way to, because I want to just say that Jeremiah and I, got to do some legwork outside of this committee and are coming back with a bunch of things to vet with everyone and some ideas. And so I wonder about, sort of that idea of dividing up, coming up with a plan, and then starting to come back with some real concrete things and proposals so that we can get the ball rolling. So that's my proposal right now, is that we start getting into I don't want to use divide and conquer because this is very problematic wording, but splitting up and growing or seeding or, some other better metaphor. So.
Commissioner Lindsay. You are on mute still.
I saw what Jeremy quoted in some of the materials.
And can I briefly just say it's Jeremiah?
Jeremiah, my apologies. I'm horrible with names. My apologies, Jeremiah. So at any rate, I saw that somewhere also, and now I can't find where I saw it, but it's on one of the attachments somewhere. When I was reviewing the stuff, said anti-racism. It was like like 3 words in one line on some page, right? I was really kind of buried, but I can't remember where I saw it. But it was there. It said that we had one, and it's clearly within our, it clearly fits within the council work plan. The council would not be mad at us if we were to form a subcommittee and get working on this.
Yeah, I will say that having spoken with staff about the purpose of subcommittees, and as we have not had our training yet, we were being discouraged against forming any. But subcommittees that aren't subject to the Brown Act and thus don't need the staff to broadcast them, which right now staff does not have the resources to broadcast more, so we're being told that we can't make those kinds of standing subcommittees. ad hoc subcommittees that don't require Brown Act broadcasting have to be limited in scope, like about a project, so that they don't become this infinite thing. So while I think it's in my document, Anti-Racism Subcommittee was just brainstorming. This sounds great, but it's probably too broad. And that's also what we're going to look at with some of the next one, talking about housing and homelessness and renaming it right. And that was really broad. And we need to narrow in on some specific projects for if we're doing subcommittees. So that was a note. I'll go Commissioner Grossman, then Zapata, then Lindsay.
So let me clarify a little bit in terms of the work plan, because the old work plan does not include the equity impact plan, which was referred to us later and was all about anti-racism. So again, if we're going to do that report, that plan, that's a way of dealing with racism, and it was something that everybody was involved with. So there was no subcommittee. There were subcommittees within that related to different issues. So that's why it sort of looks like nothing was going on in that dimension. And adding an anti-racism subcommittee at this point seems to postpone that decision about whether we're doing the impact plan or not. So one of the things I think we might be able to do is look at the old work plan and identify some of the things that aren't finished and see whether in fact we want to finish them. And there are also some things there that represent ongoing responsibilities, like monitoring Albany Cares, et cetera. And attached to that is the possibility, I think, of looking at some other needs that the community has in terms of social services that we might begin to address. So I don't know if that's just some random information, but maybe it helps to clarify some of what we're facing.
I see Commissioner Cannoli's hand. Commissioner Zapata's was up first, but Commissioner Cannoli, please.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that we should definitely look at, I agree with Commissioner Grossman, just because I think that it's so important for us to look at the old work plan and figure out what they did, what they didn't, so that maybe we can further and either make some type of things happen, because I think it's super important. My biggest thing is the tax beverage thing, and I know I'm going to continue to iterate that because the money is not going to things that it shouldn't be going to. And I think that that's where our starting point should go before we come up with all of these other things. And I just think it's because obviously the old work plan, it's they knew what was going on in the community, et cetera, et cetera. And us coming up with their own, that's great. And I think it's phenomenal. However, going back to what they did and what worked and what didn't will make us, I feel make an impact in the community. So that's just my take on the entire thing.
Commissioner Zapata.
Yeah, I guess in a way, I'm trying to think of a way to operationalize a little bit of what Commissioner Cannoli is talking about and the like. So I guess to be clear, what I'm sort of ideating maybe is an idea that we look at this work plan, or we look at the work plan, and maybe there are 2 people per objective, and we try to figure out has this already been done? Is there anything to add? For example, I really think that promoting community-wide inclusivity is where the anti-racism, we could, easily fit that. That's a goal that fits with community-wide inclusivity broadly. So I guess what I'm trying to propose is that we sort of separate out each of the objectives, work on them maybe in pairs, and try to clarify what's happening with the aging in place just for example, objective 3, develop a model for an annual Albany diversity report. So what's going on with that? Do we want to add under that objective maybe, something else that is that we can float to the committee and then come back and sort of vet that and get feedback on that. So that's the process I'm sort of trying to articulate. I hope that is making sense. Yeah.
Okay, so Commissioner Garrett Pinguello.
So are there any things that are high priority right now? I mean, such as, mental health services, any sort of things that are high priority right now, this next month, this next 2 months that we could put on here so we could start working on this plan? What kind of things can we start working on? There's a lot of great things on here. I mean, everything on this plan are great goals and it's a good work plan. So I'm just wondering, we just want to start on page 1 and just go down the list and just start, attempting to get some of these done, taking care of business. I mean, a lot of it seems like, things we could do. We can get these done. I think if we work together, we can get a lot of these done. I mean, there's objectives here, for school zones, for the speed limits around our schools. We're talking about schools reopening. So that's kind of a current event, right? So if schools are going to be reopening, we want to enforce slower traffic because people kind of forgot how to drive this past year. Everybody's speeding and not following the rules. So are there some of these that are high priority right now? Maybe 2 or 3 of them that we could just really start working on?
Commissioner Canoli.
I think the most important is health and wellness, and then also like a rent program or something, because I mean, obviously the pandemic has definitely hit us quite well, and I think it's really important. Like a lot of families, especially like where I live, is like they haven't yet to pay their rent because they can't afford it because they lost their jobs. And then also like just again, like health and wellness. I mean, mental health and like physical health is super important. I think as of right now, and then hopefully we can get like the ball rolling on that sooner rather than later. I don't know if anyone agrees or disagrees.
Commissioner Zapata and then Lindsay.
Yeah, I guess I think that I want to say that I feel like everything is there underneath. Like, for example, Commissioner Canoli, the objective 2 says promote housing availability and quality. And so I feel like what you're talking about, which is so important, housing, rent control in Albany, I feel like what I think ideally what we could potentially do is, maybe you and another person, maybe you and I like split off and, in between now and the next meeting, we go over, for example, what is the progress towards the housing element? Because I worry about creating like a whole new work plan. We have something here, right? We can sort of go through it a little bit, look at what's happening, and I guess kind of hold it, just use it as a document to work from, because I think all of us have a sense of like, let's roll our sleeves up. And so perhaps maybe we could even, if you and I were working on it in a subcommittee, an objective 2, then maybe we add another point because we really feel like something's missing. So I want to leave some time to discuss, but I'm kind of feeling like I want to make a motion if that makes sense. But I don't want to cut off the conversation or yeah.
Commissioner Lindsay's hand lowered.
Well, I'm just lowering it because do you want me to leave it up constantly? I mean, so once you put me on a list, then I was lowering it because you put me on a list.
Okay.
And so I'm not sitting there going,
Okay.
Thank you very much, Zoom, but yeah, I did want to speak. One thing is going way back. Well, let's bigger picture first. Commissioner Grossman, Cannoli, Zapata have all said, why don't we start from the old work plan? And I think Commissioner Cannoli, I think it was, said, let's take people in pairs. I'm not sure if it was Commissioner Cannoli, it was somebody though. I think that's actually not a bad idea at all. And that we could definitely, and especially in the context of there's a pretty new council now. It's a pretty different council. So the strategic plan might undergo some serious change. I don't know for sure. I haven't talked to anybody on the council about it. But in fact, if we did make a whole new plan and then they changed the whole thing, and that might kind of suck. So, I think that that idea is a very good one. That we take the existing work plan, and get pairs of people together, as somebody suggested. It's very, very solid suggestion is how we could make some progress on stuff and not just sit here. Meeting after meeting and say, gee, we wish we could do something, but let's actually do something. So that was part of it, is I'm agreeing with that concept. I just wanted to throw in real quick, Commissioner Zapata, that it would have been fine for you to make a motion. I still could have said what I wanted to say. It's when you're ready to make a motion, you can make a motion, or you can ask the chair, would a motion be in order? Then the other thing that came up from early on at the beginning of this is that apparently Chair Dosty, somebody from a staff member said, well, you can't do ad hoc subcommittees because we don't have time. Sorry, it doesn't work like that to the staff. I understand the staff told you that. And I've been working on a lot of commissions for a lot of years, and we've never had a standing subcommittee that couldn't do work because of, it wasn't published as a Brown Act meeting. You're meeting specifically as the subcommittee is under the Brown Act, but the subcommittee is specifically, it's under the big umbrella of one. It's not a Brown Act subcommittee because it has only maximum of 3 members, not a majority. So you can just meet, you can just do stuff, and it can be a standing committee, and there's nothing in the Brown Act that says you can't do that. So I'm just going to push back a little on staff there. And then, so that then they're saying you could only do ad hoc subcommittees, and they have to be like really, really specific and limited. Nothing in the Brown Act that says that. And if there is, I sure would like to see where it is, because I've read that guy many times. I just felt needed to push back on that a little bit. We can work with staff to try to keep their workload, because staff is overworked. They usually have way too many things to do and not enough time. And I'm very grateful for staff support. If you don't have staff support, it's really kind of bad. But at the same time, I don't like it when staff says you can't do this and you can't do that, because, and then it's not accurate. I just don't believe it's accurate. So I believe staff thinks it's accurate, but I just don't think it's accurate. So let's get going. I would love to hear your motion, Commissioner Zapata.
Before that, Commissioner Grossman, and then I have like a brief note.
Okay. I'd like to suggest that I'd like to follow what Commissioner Zapata is suggesting, but I'd like to see us start that now. There aren't that many goals or objectives in the old work plan. We could go through them right now and look at what's unfinished, look at what the next steps would be from our point of view. And I think we could do that in a fairly reasonable period of time and come up with some specific objectives based on the old goals together. And then that might suggest some subcommittees or some collective actions that we could begin to take. You know, just if we use the old structure, I think we'll be pretty safe in terms of presenting this at some point to council, because it's built on what they've already approved.
Right. And my brief note is just, I would bring us back to, I don't think any of us wanted to create a new plan, but if there are things we want to ask to add to our work plan, because we know they are priorities and that they don't fit right now exactly. For instance, Golden Gate Fields does not fit at all. I'm not sure that's something that we want to add to our work plan, but if we did, we would have to ask, and then we'd have to wait to hear back. So those sorts of things are what I would encourage us to push tonight, maybe. But I agree that not redoing the whole plan. Commissioner Zapata, do you want to let Commissioner Conguelo talk first? Go ahead. Commissioner Conguelo, please.
Oh, hi. So just for clarification, we've got three things going on here, right? We've got the council strategic plan goals. We've got Social and Economic Justice Commission 2019 through 2021 work plan update. And then we've also have the SEJC work plan draft notes, correct?
Yes.
So the council strategic plan goal, that is the city council's strategic plan so far, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the one we're working with tonight is either the 2019-2021 work plan update or the SEJ work plan draft notes, which I see your bullet points are the ones you've added, right? That aren't the numbers?
That's right.
Okay. Well, Social and Economic Justice Commission 2019 to 2021 work plan update. A lot of these things on here, I don't know. We haven't had it. It says number one, bullet point 1, housing element, received presentation, update on the plan. I'm not sure when we received presentation on State Tenant Protection Act, AB 1482. Did this commission get these presentations? Because I don't remember getting these. Not this year. So right. So anybody on this commission that's brand new, we haven't got these presentations. We haven't had Albany Cares reports, Albany Project Hope. So we don't even have any of that. So we're working from the SEJC work plan draft notes. So I would say my motion would be, if there's one, to accept all your bullet points on here, which are fantastic. You did an excellent job. You included everything. So I just want to just say, hey, let's add all these bullet points to our draft plan and send it to city council. It looks good to me. The only thing I'm not sure that's not on here is we have a consultant hired by the city that we're supposed to be working with. I'm just wondering if we could add that on there somehow to get a presentation from, forget her name. I'm sorry.
Nicole Anderson and Associates. Yeah.
Yes, Nicole Anderson. Yes, and Associates. Yes. So if we can get a presentation on that, that'd be wonderful. That would be the only thing I would add to your bullet points is presentation from Nicole Anderson. Those are my comments. Thank you.
I agree. I don't think I incorporated her and the previous racial equity impact plan into the notes sufficiently. Commissioner Cannoli and then Zapata. Never mind Cannoli. Commissioner Zapata.
I guess I'm what so I just want to be really clear that I feel that I guess my concern is that there's a lot being proposed. And I know that for me, I work best when I keep it simple and less is more. And you know, we're a volunteer body that cares deeply, has a lot of ideas, and understands, I think, injustice and the work that the city of Albany ideally needs to do. And there's a lot of work, and we can easily lose ourselves in good intentions and things like that. And so I really want to, you know, encourage us to, and you know, I'm hearing Commissioner Grossman say, you know, perhaps we just take a look right now at each of the objectives, and just say what's happening right now with them, and then add one. I mean, something like that, because honestly, I'm very worried that we will not do anything. And none of us want that.
Commissioner Canoli?
And I wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Zapata. I think that there should be a meeting where we go one by one and figuring out how each and every one of us can figure out what we can do to make an impact, because it is a lot. It's a significant lot. So I don't know if there's a meeting where we can go like step by step and trying to figure out, okay, cool. So this isn't working. How can we figure out this? This is working, but how can we figure out that, right? So I think it's important. And I'm so glad that Commissioner Zapata brought that up, and also Commissioner Grossman, because it is a lot. And I feel like we're getting all of this stuff and we're like, okay, we can do this, we can do that. But I think it just should be completely organized. So I think I make the motion to kind of figure out how we can kind of put it in a meeting, and we can go one by one by one, so that we can all understand what is really going on, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, I can further explain. Because as of now, I feel like we're looking at something and we're like, okay, we like this, we like that, but it's like, wait, hold on. Well, so the meeting is going to go longer than what it should be, if that makes any sense. So that's just me.
Yes, there is a motion now. Staff, did you get that motion?
Chair, before the motion, I think you need to let the public, if there's any public comment.
Yes, thank you. I see we have at least one. If you'd let them in, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm glad you're working on the work plan, whichever work plan it is that you end up working on. I came to the meeting because I was hoping to talk about the sugar-sweetened beverage tax and the, the things that are in under 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. And I'm wondering if you now go through the work plan, are you going to ever get to 6.2, 6.3, 6.4? Should I go to bed and come back another day? Or I just want to get an idea of what's happening. I think it's great that you're trying to figure out how to progress. And I'm glad you'll be looking at the old work plan. I guess I actually don't particularly like the old work plan. I think it's missing a million things. And so I like what Chair Dostie has done, but I agree that it needs to be done methodically. And I think having pairs of people is a great idea. And I think there is definitely, the old work plan doesn't place any emphasis, as far as I can see, on racial equity, on social disparities, on all the things that Albany should actually be dealing with. None of that has ever been addressed, as far as I can see, and I clearly see that in the suggestions for the use of the sugar-sweetened beverage tax. So anyway, my question, I guess, is if somebody could clarify whether you're going to get to the sections I wanted to talk about, or should I just not worry about it and you'll put it on the next agenda or something. And I know maybe you don't know the answer to that, but it would help for me to know whether I should keep staying up for the next couple hours. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other public comments? I don't see any hands. We'll give it 2 seconds for last second. And closing public comment. I will say that we should be wrapping up this item to move on to others, and I do believe that would be preferable, but that is my opinion. and it is our decision as a body. And I would ask for clarification about the motion if it is to go item by item at another meeting, or if you meant this meeting, Commissioner Cannoli.
Right. I think that we should go line by item. However, I think it is really important. I'm glad that Julie, I really do appreciate that public comment, because I would definitely want to talk about the sugar-sweetened tax beverage. That was my ultimate goal. So I don't know if we should bring it to a different meeting. But I think this is definitely a very important topic to talk about. So maybe I could make a motion to kind of go line by line of each item, so that we can all be clear, and then also include things that we want to further talk about in the future agendas.
Okay. So that is amenable to it being next meeting. Okay. I see a lot of hands. Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo, I saw yours first.
I'm just saying motion to table the review of the commission work plan to the next meeting. And if we table this to the next meeting, possibly we can make it as agenda item 6.5 instead of 6.1, or toward the end. That way we can get other items earlier for public comment, and then we can discuss the commission work plan later in the evening. That's my motion.
Okay. Staff, please help me. Does a motion to table trump other motions?
And can you help me out?
Sorry?
I'm asking Anne for some help.
So I think you need to, there's a motion on the table. You need to take care of that first motion first, unless it's an amendment to the first motion.
No, that's wrong.
But it sounds like it's not. So we need to take care of that first motion first.
Commissioner Grossman?
Motion to table is a procedural motion. It comes first if we're being asked to table the preceding motion. However, the preceding motion doesn't have a second. So it doesn't exist until it's seconded. And then a motion to table is in order and takes precedence. However, what I really wanted to say was if we're going to go through this list and use it as a springboard, use it as a kind of an organization, there's no reason that we have to go in order. And if there's a lot of energy to talk about the last one, to talk about sugar-sweetened beverages first, there's no reason why we can't do that. We don't have to go from 1 to 10. We can go from 10 to 2. Doesn't matter. So if this is our framework, we can talk about any piece of it. So I would be fine if we begin by talking about the sugar-sweetened beverage tax. That would be progress.
I will say that would be a separate item on the agenda probably, because that is a current charge. We have to submit a recommendation to council next meeting. So we are talking about it this meeting and next meeting.
Oh, that's right. It's already on the agenda, so we could talk about that. Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have.
That's right. So that's separate from going through the work plan item by item.
Okay, fine then.
Yeah. So I didn't ask for seconds. Yeah. Is there a second to Diane? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I don't think there was a chance to ask if there's any second for the first motion.
Oh,
so if not, then yeah, we can go to the motion to table the item.
I'd like to second the motion, yeah.
Okay. But the tabling still supersedes, which is a procedural thing that I do remember.
Right.
I don't even know what the motion is. Can somebody restate what the motion is?
The commissioner can only make a motion to go item by item together as one group through the existing SEJC work plan in a meeting, and is amenable to it being next meeting.
So it could be this meeting or next meeting.
Yes.
Because that was left ambiguous for us to decide.
It was.
Okay. And so that is a motion and it's been seconded.
But there is a motion to table from Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo.
So I think I'm not like a huge parliamentarian, but I've sort of done a little bit. I think it requires a second. There's no discussion and you vote. Can somebody, Bart is nodding his head. Yeah.
That is also what I remember. Is
Okay.
there a second to Commissioner Garrett Penguilla's motion? If there is no second, it dies.
And can I speak in favor of the motion briefly?
Of which motion?
The motion that's on the table, Commissioner Cannoli's motion.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we should do that, and I think we should try to do at least some of it today. But I would be quite happy. The two things that seem to resonate the most, that people seem the most energized about, are the sugar-sweetened tax and the anti-racism work. And so if we could just, and we're talking, does this motion include or imply there would be assigning pairs of people to look at it? What would we be doing with these again? I'm sorry, Commissioner Cannoli.
Well, I would like for us to all kind of go one by one through each and every one, each and every line of the previous work plan, and then maybe a couple of us in the commission can go and figure out a plan how we can like execute it. Yeah.
So we would have to do the whole thing in one meeting, or could we do part tonight and part another meeting?
I think it's really important that we talk about the sugar-sweetened tax beverage. I think that's something that we should focus on.
Yeah.
I will remind the commission that that is a separate item that is not part of the work plan that we will be discussing under 6-5.
It's already on the agenda.
It is already on the agenda.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay. I'm going to call the motion. Laura, would you call roll, please?
Commissioner Bainan.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Penguillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli.
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata.
Yes.
Chair Dosty.
Yes. The motion passes. So we're going one by one through some of the items. Would anyone like to take the lead on Commissioner Garrett Penguillo?
Are we doing this now, or are we moving to the, is it possible to move 6-4? Are we able to move 6-4 up the agenda for public comment? I know we had a public comment saying you'd like to talk about 6-4. Is that a possibility to move 6-4 up the agenda if we vote okay on that?
Yes, we can do that. Are you making that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Seconded.
We're not done with 6-1. We come back to it, but we do 6-4 first, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is to pause 6-1, go to 6-4. Okay. That is the current motion. Roll, please, Laura.
Commissioner Bainan.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Penguillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli.
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata.
Yes.
Chair Dosty.
Yes. We are now jumping to 6-4, the sugar-sweetened beverage tax.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
There is a staff report.
Yes.
There are several attachments. Do we want to hear the staff report verbally as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be doing that. And I don't know if you guys already have the attachments open, but I definitely encourage you all to check this out while I'm reading along. And so I'm sure you're all familiar with the sugar-sweetened beverage tax that was approved by Albany voters in November of 2016. The council holds an annual, sorry if I'm a little shaky, an annual study session in conjunction with the city's budget process to receive input and recommendations from local organizations such as the SEJC, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Transportation Commission, one designated representative from AUSD, and individuals with expertise in public health issues relating to diabetes, obesity, and sugary drink consumption. And so far, some of the programs and projects funded with SSB tax proceeds have included the installation of water bottle filling stations, funding to cover the cost of the school crossing guard program, health and fitness classes provided by the Recreation and Community Services Department, safe routes to school programs for elementary and middle school students, and Healthy Me and Music Movement programs for elementary students. And both of those last two, the Safe Routes to School and Healthy Me programs, are both being offered virtually right now. So the SEJC will prepare a recommendation for the use of the SSB tax proceeds for the fiscal year 2022. And this fiscal year starts July 1st of this year, July 1st, 2021, and ends June 30th, 2022 of next year. And the fiscal year 2021 recommendation from the last SEJC commissioners from May of 2020 is provided in attachment 1 on the agenda packet if you want to take a look at that. And where's my second page? And per the voter approved ordinance, the SSB tax is general fund revenue that the city council aims to apply towards specific purposes related to health and well-being, and approved expenditures are incorporated into the city's annual operating budget. So the city estimates receiving up to $250,000 of tax proceeds from SSB in fiscal year 2022, this upcoming one. And the council will consider recommendations for the use of the tax proceeds at a study session likely to take place in spring in April or May.
Thank you for that report. Commissioner Cannoli.
Thank you for giving that to us, Laura. I think that for the Cross Guard program, again, here's what I'm trying to figure out. Where is this money at currently? Because I understand this is for our physical health, but there's also mental health included as well. And I think that's extremely important. So I'll give you an example. I live in the University Village and I currently go to UC Berkeley, and the pandemic hit and there were thousands and thousands of students where they cannot afford their rent and they're going through mental crises. So I don't know if this Cross Guard program, which is they were offered $130,000, and there's no schooling. There has not been schooling for the past, well, since April, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So where is this money at? And can we please make a motion to put this money into something for Albany residents to pay their rent? I don't know. I think we should hold off on going to Eco Housing or Albany Cares, but I think that we should wait on that $130,000 that's going to the Cross Guards and helping people of Albany to pay their rent. Because I think that's definitely important. Another thing is too, I believe Laura mentioned classes virtual online. Was that for nutrition, cooking, and gardening? I just want to make sure. Like, what was?
I don't know the specifics on that actually. What did I have down? The Safe Routes to School programs and the Healthy Me and Music Movement programs. Both of those are being offered virtually. I'm not sure about. I know that the Recreation Department, that's my old department, they're offering a decent amount of online classes and programs.
Is it currently being held?
For which one? For recreation?
Or because
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the Safe Route to School program is that currently being held as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So what has yet to be funded within all of these programs? And that's including the Crossroad program, the Safe Route to School program.
Right. That's a good question. I wish I had the attachment open right now, but there should be under one of the attachments a list of programs that were being considered for the proceeds. And I believe the first three, which included the Safe Routes to School program and two others, those three were definitely being included in the recommendations and having money put towards those programs in particular.
For the past fiscal year.
Right.
It is not committed to the next fiscal year. Is that correct, staff?
I'm not sure about that. Anne?
Yes. So you as the commission is making the recommendation for the next fiscal year.
And nothing is committed for the next fiscal year at this point.
Correct. I mean, the programs that Laura mentioned has been in place. And so you can choose to continue those programs or to recommend to continue those programs, or you can choose to recommend a different program.
Okay.
But it is ultimately up to the council to decide which program that they want to take action on.
I think currently the Cross Guard program should go towards a rental assistance program, and be put in some type of fund or something that we can like figure out who could help people in the city of Albany to pay their rent.
Okay, I saw Commissioner Banon's hand up at one point, and I want to check if that is still.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll make some clarifying points too. I just had a question for staff. So I know that Safe Routes to School is like a morning program to walk kids to school, and I was just wondering, how are they doing that virtually? Like, are they doing some waiting room for kids? I was wondering, where's that money going now?
So now the Safe Routes to School program is actually it is a program that trains elementary school kids and the middle school kids bicycle and pedestrian safety.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Banon, did you still have?
Yeah. I was just wondering, so how are they doing that virtually? Because I have a younger sibling at both the middle school and elementary school, and they haven't had any of these programs currently. So are they planned for the spring? Are they going to have classes? What's that looking like virtually now?
I'll have to check with the staff that's coordinating with the vendor, but from my past experience, yes, it's run every 2 years, and it is run usually springtime, like April, May kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
I see Commissioner Lindsay and Cannoli. I do want to first myself say that I found the recommendations from 2019 to be much more interesting, and then found them after the agenda was already posted, so they were not shared, but I would like to just briefly share them. So this was what happened in discussion. You can see that there's gardening, mobile medical clinic for people experiencing homelessness, mobile dental clinic for children of low-income families, meal support for seniors and people experiencing homelessness, installation of public restrooms on Ohlone Greenway, these sorts of things. And this was the official SEJC recommendations were the mobile medical clinics, the mobile dental clinics, and the monthly wellness clinic. So there was a history of that. And yeah, and that is also, I found a report of comparing Albany to Berkeley, Oakland, and San Francisco, which are the local cities that also have the soda tax. And they are all doing oral health projects, and Berkeley is doing gardening, and both Oakland and San Francisco are doing food voucher programs, and Berkeley is doing the diabetes prevention programs. And all of those have been suggested in the past, either in 2020 or 2019. Some of them specifically by SEJC and some by community members. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix, using my prerogative to be like, I did this research that I didn't have time to share with you all. I'm sorry. It'll be on there we're making our recommendation officially next time. But I found all that today. Yay. Commissioner Lindsay and then Commissioner Grossman. And then,
my gut, I don't know if I should share my screen because I did find the table that I think she was referring to, but there's 3 items. The top 3 items are crossing guard program, $140,000, bike safety program, $15,000, and healthy me music and movement program, which is $12,500. But out of $250,000, that doesn't quite add up. So I don't know. I think this whole thing adds up to $250,000. There's a whole bunch of things on it that it did. There's about 10 different things. But what I wanted to say is that having worked with big organizations and cities for a while, this was in May. Nobody really knew that schools were going to be closed this long. And so when we made wasn't really us, but when the last SEJC made this recommendation, they thought schools were going to be open. Somebody from the city probably said, we really need the money for this. We want kids to cross safely. Will you please, do this? And the commission said yes. Then that money is probably sitting as a budget item, and it probably says $140,000 allocated and 0 spent, or maybe 10,000 or 5,000 or 10, a little bit spent in administrative costs or something. My guess is they haven't spent it because there hasn't been kids crossing, So I think that's I think what Commissioner Cannoli was talking about whenever we started saying this, which is what happened to that money. My gut is it's unspent, but it could be that the city has reallocated it because of COVID. Remember, it's general fund costs. They can do whatever they want with it. I actually, when I saw this thing, my first question was, well, what did we promise the voters? Because I remember voting for this thing and going, I know kids will drink less soda and families and people will drink less sweetened beverages if this passes. That's just known knowledge. And this stuff is poison, and I'm voting yes. And I didn't I didn't have to look that carefully at everything. But now I looked carefully, and you know what we promised the voters? Nothing. There is nothing in there that says how the money shall be spent. It just says, it's up to the council. And the council decided that it was, well, I think there may be something that says that there's certain people you have to talk to, and we're one of them. That was in there, actually. So we're just, if you look at this chart, it actually lists the PROSC, whatever the heck that is, the SEJC, the TC, and the community as 4 different areas, groups or that they need to ask. So we get kind of 1/4 input, if you will. And then the council does whatever it thinks is best. Regarding rent relief, it's really attractive. I just wonder what is the total bill. How much do people owe, and how much of it would we pay, and there's some complexities there, but I'm not completely opposed to it. I just have lots of questions about it. My gut is that this money should go towards health items, the sorts of things that Commissioner Dostie, Chair Dostie found, or the other cities are doing. Sounds great. Some of the ideas for previous years sound great. As much as crossing guards is a darn important thing, my kids are all grown up, but they weren't always grown up, and now I got grandkids, so right? You want them crossing streets safely, for sure. But I just don't. It doesn't feel right to me. I think if the voters saw that's where the money was going, they might be scratching their head, and that's not good, right? It's sort of implied that this money is going to go towards health, and so I think that sort of implied contract with the voters should be met. And that we should propose health-related items. And you can argue, I suppose, that crossing guards are health-related, but yeah, nutritionally related, shall we say? Nutritionally related. That's what I think it is. And I think rent relief is a different thing. I think it's really important, and the kind of stress it causes on people, like what's going to happen to my family, is a pretty big deal. I'm just not sure this is the bucket we should be paying it from. That's all. So that's my thoughts on various things people said.
The acronym was Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission, who were the ones who recommended a public restroom on the Ohlone Greenway, which staff at the time said they would look into HEAPS funding, which is Homeless Emergency Aid Program funds, but that does not appear to have gone forward. So that is that clarification. I saw Commissioner Grossman and then Commissioner Cannoli and Gary Pinguelo about the same time. Commissioner Grossman.
Okay, so a couple of things. The city is about to receive some money. I don't know exactly how much from the state for rent subsidies. It would be good if, I don't know if staff has any idea or if we can find out how much money that is. I also don't know whether the village is included in that money because the village is considered the university's territory. I know that the university is forgiving rents at the moment. So I'm not sure what the situation is, but the city does have and will continue to have a rent relief program. As I say, I don't know how much money is involved and whether the village is eligible, and maybe we could find that out. I would also say that although the commission recommended the crossing guard program as its second priority last time, it was done reluctantly, and you can see that in the language. And some of us, I would say, agreed with Commissioner Lindsay that it seemed a bit of a stretch. And really, you know, should the city be paying for the crossing guard program, or should the school system be paying for the crossing guard program, or some kind of combination? It seems like a lot of money for the city to put out from the tax. What we came up with last time was the notion of food subsidies, because again, we were very worried about what was going to happen to people during the COVID isolation period, which you may remember was only going to be a couple of months at that time. But I would like to see this money go to some kind of COVID relief in the short term. Because I know that people are hurting for food, and in the longer term, I would like to see it be going to health and welfare programs like the ones Chair Dusty described, which were set up in the beginning. And you may remember, Commissioner Lindsay, that the decision was made in the beginning to go for this as a general fund tax, and that's why you can't, if you go for general fund tax, you can't indicate what the uses are, because then it becomes a special tax and you require a 2/3 majority.
Yeah, I will, 2 notes. One, the numbers involved. No item was recommended for above a cap of 60,000 in 2019 or 2020, except for the crossing guards, as far as I saw. So even the stuff about food relief, medical care, all were capped at a $60,000 recommendation. So that seems to be common. And then about use, the report that I read, which is by the Praxis Project, which did a lot of advocacy around getting Berkeley's soda tax and using it, talks about the importance of public perception to not have it repealed. So yes, it is important that it looks like the money is being spent in a way according with what voters thought they were getting. I'm going to take Commissioner Garrett Pinguello, and then Cannoli, and then public comment. Commissioner Garrett Pinguello.
So yeah, the crossing guard program takes too much money from this budget. You know, I was suggesting crossing guards 10 years ago. Finally, something happened with it, but I wasn't intentionally trying to get the money to come from this fund. You know, once we have the school zones in our municipal code book, the state gives a grant every year. The governor gives a school zone grant every year to every city with school zones in their municipal code book, which is $100,000 every year to pay for speed bumps, flashing lights, rapid flashing beacons, to repaint crosswalks. And in addition to that $100,000 is 10 paid crossing guards for free from the state. So we need to check out that state school zone budget, school zone grant. Hopefully we got school zones in our municipal code book now. It's been almost 10 years. I'm not sure what's going on with that. So we, you know, technically we shouldn't even be spending, that's a police officer's job. You know, police officers should be doing crossing guards and controlling traffic. I mean, controlling cars on streets, it's a police officer. I mean, the Albany Police Department used to have crossing guards. So But the problem is this is a general fund, right? And so since it's a general fund, everybody wants to take money from it, like planning and zoning, not planning and zoning, but transportation. They want to use some of this money to install curb extension bulb outs on Talbot and Marin. Why do they want to take $50,000? Why does the city transportation and safety committee want to take $50,000 to do a city project and hire a construction company? I mean, it seems like everybody's trying to get into this piggy bank. You know, the only things that are on here that make sense to me is additional bicycle parking at Albany High School. Encourages people to ride bikes, is healthy, and we're giving money to the schools. Okay, great. But I don't know about spending $70,000 on, you know, transportation things. I mean, it's great. It's for safety. I've been suggesting flashing beacons on these intersections for a long time, but I just don't think the money should come from here. Planting trees, $40,000 to plant trees. That's a lot of money to plant trees. I mean, and the trees we're planting, are we even getting the native Ohlone Lejeun's input into what trees we're planting in Albany? You know, are they native? There goes $100,000 right there. You know, food insecurity, which is great. There's also other options. I mean, for food insecurity, it's $60,000, which is fine, but we should be spending some sort of $60,000 on letting the public know that they can go to the Berkeley Food Network on 9th Street and University in 5-6 days a week. You can get all the food you want. I mean, you can go to the Berkeley Food Pantry on Cedar Street and Sacramento, the Friends Church. You walk away with 4 bags of groceries, over $100, $200 worth of food. So I just think more people need to be aware of food banks. Any Albany resident can go to the Berkeley Food Network or Berkeley Food Pantry and get food every day. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is. There's a whole warehouse full of food. So people just got to go to the food banks. I know I do every single day. I mean, I never have to pay for food again in my life. I mean, there's food banks. So I just don't know why people aren't being resourceful and going to food banks in this time. Maybe just people aren't aware of 9th Street and University or Cedar and Sacramento. Bike safety program. I mean, it's great, but I mean, shouldn't the fire department or the police department do bike safety programs? Because the fire department's the one giving away free helmets, free bicycle helmets, you know, and all these other things, safe routes to school. It's great, but it teaches them bicycle and pedestrian safety. I mean, where are the parents? Where are the parents teaching their kids to look both ways before they cross the street? Don't chase a ball into a street, you know, and to walk your bike across crosswalks. Don't ride your bike across a crosswalk. You know, those 3 things. Don't chase a ball, look both ways before you cross the street, and walk your bicycle or skateboard across a crosswalk. I see so many parents, you know, in Albany, I see all these kids riding bikes across crosswalks. I'm thinking to myself, that's not how I was taught when I was a kid. So I think maybe even the parents need to be educated on how to educate their kids on safety. So I couldn't vote to make sure all this money, and what is the money? What's the budget right now? How much money is in this account as of today? I mean, I don't think we spent $140,000 on crossing guards here because school hasn't been in session. So obviously we have an extra $140,000 from 2020. So where is it on this piece of paper that says how much money is in the account right now? Then we could put stuff because we know we have maybe 400,000 or 500,000. But we have nothing here saying how much money is in the account. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cannoli, and then public comment.
Yes, I agree. So staff, the question that I want to propose is what is in the budget? Like how much is currently in this particular budget? If anyone knows.
So the budget info for the sugar-sweetened beverage tax it will be provided to council as part of the council's budget process. So right now, we don't have the information, but it will be provided to council. What you are discussing tonight is the recommendation that you want to make to council of which item that you like to see the money goes towards for the next year.
Okay, so how can we figure out what can go towards or make recommendations towards certain programs if we don't know how much?
If I'm not mistaken, the estimate is $250,000.
Okay, in current budget. Okay. So can we all kind of agree or try and figure out or kind of organize what money could go to what? Because I think in the current plan, it's just not working. So can we kind of like figure out, or can anyone give me recommendations so we can go line by line to where this $250,000 will be going to? I mean, I have an idea. I know Commissioner Lindsay had some ideas, and Commissioner Grossman, and also Garrett Penguello. So can we make the motion to like?
Let's listen to public comment before we do that, I think.
Yes, public comment is next. Anne, would you please move public comment in? Thank you.
Yes, hi. Everybody's doing very well. I did go back. It was part of the attachments that you had about this. And when it was approved, the selling point, which I think is interesting, said, whereas diabetes, obesity, and tooth decay have been in the rise for decades, although no group has escaped these epidemics, children as well as low-income communities and communities of color have been and continue to be disproportionately affected. So that's what we as voters saw when we were voting for or against this tax. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. Some of the things that we've seen it gone to seem to be totally unrelated to that. And I think that we need to look at the idea of the mobile medical clinics that was mentioned, dental health programs, and possibly food insecurity. And the cooking classes would probably be a good way to learn how to cook better with better food and so forth. But I think it's very important that we keep this in mind, in which people in our community were supposed to be taken care of by this. And I guess I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't followed this for the last four and a half years to see where it's actually ended up. But it seems like with many of the items on here that we've gone way off course. And I would encourage you, and it sounds like you're going in that direction, to pull it back into what the initial goals were. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, please.
So my husband stole part of what I was going to say, so I won't. But yeah, that was to start with. I was going to just talk about that. It's not just there, but also later on it says nearly 1/2 of Latino and African American children born in the year 2000 will develop type 2 diabetes. So it keeps referring to BIPOC communities, but yet none of the funds are actually going toward the communities that the way that it was sold to the public. And I think it's just really disingenuous. It's like, here's why we need to do this, because there are these people that we, need help, and we're going to, in our paternalistic way, we're going to come in and help them. We're going to decide how to do that, and then we're going to get crossing guards. So I have a real issue with the way that the money's been spent. And I think I really appreciate Chair Dostie putting up the items from the previous one. And I like the food subsidies, dental and medical, direct, the public restrooms. I think that I appreciate Commissioner Penguello's comments about food pantries, but I really believe in people being in charge of their own lives. And so I also think that some of this money should go to direct cash transfers. And I know I sent something in about that. I believe very, very strongly in direct cash transfers. It gives people control over their lives. they get to decide how the money's being spent, and they're not told, go to a food pantry and we'll give you whatever food there is there, but or whatever, however they want to spend it, pay towards rent. And I calculated it, you know, it could easily be affordable if you had people apply and give them a certain amount of money, say $500 a month and have it be a pilot project, and they could decide how they're going to spend it and make their life better, and they are in charge of that. And then the other, just a part of it, just and this is not, I can't figure out a way of linking it to health, but it links to the racism issue, or the anti-racist, addressing that in our city. I had a conversation with one of the school board members about the fact that, and I didn't realize this, it was at a meeting, I guess, also I heard that in Albany, there are no elementary school teachers of color, zero. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around that. But one of the things that's going to happen is people are not going to be able to move to Albany because they're not going to be able to afford it. So besides, I think there should be some sort of bump up in pay if you're a person of come from the BIPOC community. But I also thought some of these funds could go to subsidize rentals or even house payments for people. And that, I know it's sort of abstract, but that would increase the diversity in our city, which we're committed to. It would increase the health of our city because we would have a more diversity, and it would be a great use of these funds. So that's my other idea. Thank you.
Thank you. One last comment currently, please.
Margie, go ahead and unmute yourself. And
still can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I had changed my mind and tried to put my hand down. I apologize for wasting your time. I totally agreed with so much of what everyone else said. I didn't want to waste more of your time. That's why I did it. Bye.
Thank you. And not seeing any other public comments. We're closing public comment. So I want to briefly put up, and then yes, I see many hands. I did do up this document. It's not great, but briefly, so this is what we're currently spending, right? This is what I had anyway, was that we are still doing free exercise classes in parks and free or low-cost cooking and nutrition classes. There was an educational campaign mentioned in the document that I found that maybe is no longer happening because I couldn't find anything about it at the city. And the water bottle filling is done. And these were the existing suggestions I previously saw. And I do just want to highlight that some of the specifics around relief of food insecurity were an EBT match for farmers markets and collaborating specifically with Gale Tract Farm, which I think are very specific. So those are just my brief notes there. Pause share, stop share. And okay, Commissioner Bainan, Garrett Pinguelo, Grossman, Canoli.
Okay, I just have a few points I wanted to make. So relating to the bike safety program, I really think it's an instrumental program that should continue to be funded once we go back in school. It's not just teaching kids how to ride a bike in a classroom setting. It takes kids on tours of Albany on bikes. It provides bikes, different training. A lot of students in different classes I've been don't know how to ride a bike, and it teaches them how to ride a bike, which is really like an instrumental part of being a kid, at least for me. And I think that's a really amazing program, which should continue to be funded at least once we go back in session. And then I also just wanted to add on, I really think we should look at the mobile dental clinics for disadvantaged youth. I think that would be a great use of these funds. I want to look at why, because I do believe it was a recommendation in 2019, and I just want to look at why the city council didn't choose it. Was it because they didn't think it was clear enough? Was it because they just didn't want to do it? Is it something that with the new council they might be more open to? I think we just have to pursue that avenue a little bit more.
Commissioner Garapinguela.
Yeah, thank you. So I heard the public comment, listening very careful. And yeah, I mean, I agree. The food banks offer some things. You do get to pick out, what you want. And then if there's anything you don't get at the food bank, then go grocery shopping. But, hit up that food bank first to supplement 50 to 75% of, milk, eggs, cheese, all the basics, rice, and everything. So if we do $500 a month for food, we can only get, a couple hundred people for $100,000. I just don't want to leave anybody out of the loop in Albany. A really good suggestion was, so the Giltrack Farm, obviously has some food, but also the farmer's market, to double in on what you pay at the farmer's market. The only farmer's market I know around here is the El Cerrito Plaza one, which doesn't take food stamps. And Albany's yet to have a farmer's market. I did check with the El Cerrito Chamber of Commerce to get the El Cerrito farmer's market food stamp reader. It's a little electronic tool they need. They said it costs about $2,000, but once they get that, then they'll be able to read EBTs. Well, until Albany has a farmer's market, we could implement that, right? So we could double up on those farmer's market. Yeah, keep the bike safety program going. That's a great comment, Commissioner. My thing is the water filling stations. That's really big. I don't see water bottle filling stations on this suggestion to council, which I think could be on here as a good thing, good for the city. I want to push for water filling stations on Solano Avenue, one on every block. I don't see one drinking fountain on Solano. Where do people drink water? Simply just water on Solano. We have events like Solano Stroll, Dinner with Albany, and there's no water. I think our city would make a big effort, a big thing for health if we can get water filling stations on Solano Avenue, on city property. That way the people could see their money, see where this money's going. Oh, wow, where's this? And then we can have a sticker on the thing saying, funds from your taxes, from Sugar-Sweetened Beverage Tax. So people could see, oh, wow, this is where my money's going, So maybe we can incorporate with Safeway. They have a water in Sprouts. They have water bottle filling station outside, but they charge 75 cents a gallon. Maybe we could give some sort of credit to Sprouts or some sort of Safeway where there's already water filling stations because they're already there. But also we do need to install more at our parks and our cities. So if we can get water filling stations on here, please, that'd be great. That's it.
I'll just note that 7 were previously funded in fiscal year 2019.
Yeah, that's it. 7 in 2019. It's been.
Yeah, that's just a point of interest.
Thank you.
Next I had Commissioner Grossman and then Cannoli, I believe, and then more.
Chair Dawson, could you put back up that 219 set of recommendations? I think that was a good list. In the meantime, I want to second the bike program and the dental program. Okay, good. And let's see, you mentioned the mobile dental. Can you go down to the second list there?
Yeah.
So the mobile dental clinic, the monthly wellness check at the senior center. And then there was another health one.
This one.
Yeah, those 3, I think, are the strongest ones in terms of the long term.
Those 3 were specifically recommended by SEJC in 2019.
Yeah, and I still like them. So I would like to suggest those, the bike program, and I think the idea of installing additional filling stations in the community is a good idea as well. So that would be my recommendation. And we can add more, but I don't know. We need to vote at some point, I guess.
Well, our official recommendation is to do next week, next month. It's
Okay.
due. So right now is, I think we're not going to finalize, and I do want us to move on to other items soonish. So we'll have another opportunity to discuss this, come back having thought about it, and get to see all the documents I found today. I will say that the monthly wellness clinic, the original proposal included providing podiatry services because at the time the podiatrist was no longer available. That has since been rectified, so it would probably be less than the amount that it was asked for at the time, which was $60,000. Commissioner Cannoli.
Yes. So listening to the public comment, I really liked how the cash advances were mentioned. So as of 2019, there's 3% Black, so out in the city of Albany, 0.4% Pacific Islander, multiracial of 2 or more of 9.5, and 29% of is Asian, and then all the rest is white. So we have no diversity in this community. The reason why is because rent is so expensive, and obviously we can't afford it. So again, I think that some of this fund should go to cash advances, house payments, rent payments, something in that type of category, because I think it's so important. Yeah, that's my comment. I think. Oh, and yeah, that's good. And the COVID relief fund as well. I think that should also go.
Now, I'm gonna go with Commissioner Lindsay because it's been a long time since we've heard from you, and then Commissioner Bainan, and then Garrett Pinguello.
Okay, yeah, I think I do think stuff has to be obviously and clearly for this particular pot of money. I think there's a lot of good ideas that need to happen. I just don't know that they need to happen from this pot of money. My suggestion, I think stuff should be directly nutritionally related, but also diabetes related. So stuff like the bike safety and bike locks at Albany High. We want to encourage kids to walk and bike to school, and not if they're old enough, and not to have their parents drive them. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for their health. It's not good for anybody. The traffic out there in the mornings is just not safe. Anybody who's been in front of a school when kids are coming in or coming out, it's not terribly safe. So anyway, so I was thinking that maybe, it'd be nice to have some data, like how many sugar-sweetened beverages are sold or consumed. You're estimating. It's hard to judge, but get a good estimate of how many are sold or consumed each year, if that's not too expensive, so that we have some indication of kind of what's happening. It would be kind of nice, but in this case, maybe that's not so necessary, since there seems to be pretty wide agreement in Albany about this thing. I was thinking maybe we would say, of the 250, let's imagine it's 250, whatever amount it is, that one half goes to direct action and one half goes to education. Education kind of means prevention. And of the ones, we're not deciding tonight, but of the ones that I've heard that seem to most fit the bill for keeping our promises to voters, and helping especially kids and communities of color, water bottle filling stations, dental and medical care, for low income. And by the way, the lowest income area, for another reason, I was just looking at some maps of Albany with where wealth is, and it is Southwest Albany. It's University Village, which has the lowest amount of wealth. Sure, it's mostly graduate students and UC Berkeley students, but right now there's very, very little money there. And so You put the first water billing stations where the lowest wealth is. You put the first medical clinics where the lowest wealth is. And then west of, between San Pablo and the Hill, there's kind of a section there that's pretty low wealth. So I would say put stuff there first. And then the bike safety and bike locks at Albany High for direct action stuff seem like they'd all be fantastic and they would fit our promises to the voters. And then for education, diabetes education and prevention, and cooking and nutrition classes, but maybe other stuff too. If you want to call bike safety as part of education, it could be there. I don't know. But some mixture. I think we want to do some direct action. We want to do some education stuff, some prevention stuff, and some that's dealing with people who already have diabetes and things like that. So, all right, that's it for me.
Commissioner Bannon.
Yeah, just a few things I wanted to talk about were, first off, for bike safety at Albany High. As an Albany High student, not many kids bike. It's just a fact, especially in high school. There's a steep drop off after middle school. And I really don't think a good use of these funds would be new bike locks, because there already are so many and they aren't filled during the school day. And I don't see the reason for adding another $15,000 worth of them. So just something I saw from my personal view. And I also just wanted to talk about the water filling stations as relating to COVID. Like, I know water filling stations in Albany aren't open right now, at least from my personal experience, like going to parks and just trying the water fountain, and maybe they change that. But I think we just got to look at that before we think about adding new ones, and really see if that's the best use of the money for this year. Because I really think this year needs a lot of direct action to help people in need.
Thank you. Commissioner Garrett Pinguello.
Yeah, so thank you. I was just about to say that, how many bike racks are already at Albany High School? I was just Googling bike racks just now. They're maybe a couple hundred, $300-$400 each. There's some bigger ones that are a little more expensive. But yeah, I would want to know what kind of bike racks we would be installing. I was even going to suggest bike racks with electricity, in case someone rode an electric bike to school. At least they're going green, right? And some of those bicycles are assisted, electricity assisted. So if we were going to do a bicycle parking at Albany High School, maybe we can do a really nice one that would incorporate some sort of electricity to charge electric bikes, because you're still encouraging a healthier community by going green. You're still on a bicycle. Best of both worlds. Electric bicycle parking station at Albany High School. So are we going to talk about this the next meeting to finalize our recommendation to council and some suggestions?
Yes.
Okay.
With that note, let's wrap up talking about it tonight. I have a bunch of notes. Yeah, I have a bunch of good notes. I think this was fruitful. And I have my pre-existing documents that I made today, which I think will be able to be attached to the agenda afterwards, because I showed them during the meeting tonight. That's my understanding of how that works. Is that right, Steph?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, because I showed some documents during the meeting tonight that I hadn't given you, those can be attached after the fact to the agenda.
Correct. Yeah. If you can go ahead and email it to me.
I absolutely. Laura. Yeah, so those will be available. And I'll sum up what I'm hearing so far right now also, which is if there is any unspent crossing guard money, it should be diverted probably into rent relief. We're not in consensus about that yet, but that's on the table. Future crossing guard money should potentially come from pursuing the school zone grant, and certainly not from this pot of money. Continuing the bike safety program, that maybe is appropriate here, or else saying please find it from somewhere else. I'm hearing mobile dental clinics, mobile medical clinics, monthly wellness clinic, starting with the lowest wealth areas, UC Village, and between San Pablo and the Hill. I'm hearing EBT match. I think Giltract Farm has a farmer's market. I'm not 100% on that. I'm hearing maybe water bottle fillers, but maybe not now because they're maybe closed under COVID. I'm hearing cash advances to BIPOC. I'm hearing rent relief. I'm hearing COVID relief. And I'm hearing that no on additional bicycle parking because it's not used. Did I miss anything? Do we want to add anything? Just real fast. Commissioner Grossman. Oh, you are on mute still.
I think that's a pretty comprehensive list of things that people have recommended, and we can next time narrow that down. And I would like to ask if we can get some information next time about the rent review program that this rent support program that the city has in place, and how much money the city is going to get from the state for that purpose, so that we don't commit money to something that's already funded.
My current understanding from a community member from SID at Neighborhood Services is that it's still pending and we still don't know how much. Mm-hmm. So, but we can follow up on if that gets clarified. I saw Commissioner Lindsay and then Commissioner Carapinguela.
You just asked, was there anything that maybe you missed there? And I would like to add to that list that we commit a certain percent to action and a certain percent to education as we're making our recommendations. I was proposing 50-50. 50-50 was a suggestion, not, you know, I mean, we might want to do 60-40 or 70-30 or who the heck knows. You know, and that'll help us sort of narrow things down, and just, you know, we can't do everything. We got to pick probably at most 3 in each of those categories, you know? I mean, you just can't do everything. So you make some hard choices, and that's why they're paying us the big money, right?
Yeah. I will say that the Praxis project report looks at neighboring cities, dividing it by education, prevention versus direct services. Berkeley is like 80% education. But others, I think Oakland is like 70% action. So it's our decision. Commissioner Garrett-Pinguela.
Okay, so the Giltract Farm, yes, they have a farmer's market. We have a farmer's market every Sunday. I believe the hours are somewhere approximately 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., possibly noon to 3, somewhere around there. But yeah, so you can go to the Giltract Farm on Sundays. It's all donation based, but it is free if you can't pay or whatever. Also, yeah, I mean, so far as education goes, why don't we take some of this money instead of the crossing guards, $140,000? Why don't we spend $140,000 and donate it to the Albany Unified School District for education? On maybe, you know, every student can get a water bottle, you know, a nice one, a nice water bottle. You know, every kid should get the chance, the opportunity to fill, you know, to learn good habits. You know, they should be given a water bottle. You know, could say Albany on it, or Albany Unified School District, or paid for by Sugar-Sweetened Tax Beverage. But I think, you know, maybe they can't afford a water bottle. They would want to drink water, but they just don't have a nice one or something. And, you know, school's so fashionable nowadays. You got to have the coolest water bottle, you know, so maybe we can just give that money to the Albany Unified School District for education. Absolutely. So I just want to add that. Thank you, Corey. Chair Johnson.
It's fine.
Okay.
I think we're wrapping up that agenda item. And okay, which brings us back to, because we paused 6-1, but it is getting late and we still have the Homelessness and Housing Subcommittee, the Land Acknowledgement Subcommittee, and deciding an earlier SEJC meeting time, probably. And I think we have to make a motion at 9:30, right? Not 10, staff? Yeah. So our meeting will officially end in 4 minutes. That said, we said we'd come back to the work plan and start going through it item by item. Is that still the will of the commission? Commissioner Knoll?
Can we not do that?
Would you like to make that a motion?
If I can, that'd be great.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I see discussion from Commissioner. Well, no, that was a motion to table. So there's
Excuse me. We don't really need a motion. We can just move to the next agenda item.
I think that's true.
Just for the sake of moving things along. But we do need a motion to extend the meeting, and we should probably do that now. So I'm gonna, what do you all think? 5 minutes for each of the remaining three, so 9:45?
I second that. Oh,
Yeah?
I second that.
I mean, that's tight. We'll have to be really kind of disciplined and not talk too much like I always do. But okay, there seems to be a general consensus. So I'll throw that out as a motion that we extend the meeting to 9:45.
And it's been seconded, so we'll take a vote. Laura?
Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo?
No, I suggest extending it to 10:30.
Okay. Commissioner Grossman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata?
Yes.
Chair Dosty?
Yes. We're extended until 9:45 currently. And moving to item 6-2, the Homelessness and Housing Subcommittee. So we, according to staff, need to narrow down a specific charge and probably change the title because it's very broad currently. This is still pending. We haven't had our official Brown Act training, which we will in mid-March, but I am personally of the opinion that an ad hoc committee won't become a standing committee in the space of 1 or 2 months. So I do think we should look at the title and charge, but I'm not terribly worried about us breaking the Brown Act over our knees. I see Commissioner Connell.
I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm a little unclear, but I don't think that we can get through 5 minutes through 6-5. So, I mean, if anyone disagrees, please let me know, but I don't think that we can get through all of this in less than 5 minutes or 15 minutes.
Commissioner Zapata?
Yeah, maybe we just keep, we'll extend the time till it feels right. That's what I agree with you, but I think we just keep, best effort to 9:45 and then.
Commissioner Cannoli.
Sorry. Can I make a motion to just skip to number 7? I'm sorry, to 6-5?
To take it out of order again, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think that just, I don't know if anyone wants to.
Do we have a second? Not seeing a second, that will die. Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo, you're maybe seconding but muted? That is a second.
Yeah, a second. Go ahead to 6-5. I'm ready.
Okay, we have a motion to skip to 6-5. Laura?
All right. Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo?
Yep.
Commissioner Grossman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lindsay?
I'm gonna abstain.
Commissioner Zapata?
Yes.
Chair Dosty?
Yes. We are now on 6-5 SEJC meeting time. We want to move this earlier. The question is to 7 to 6:30. I believe that is what is on the table. I saw Commissioner Grossman and then Cannoli and then Garrett Pinguelo.
Yes. I wanted to say something about time in general, and it relates to this. I don't know about you all, but I've been to a lot of Zoom meetings and evening Zoom meetings. And one of the things I've noticed is that when you get to the point where you start extending the time, the meetings get much less productive. People are more confused, they're less focused, they don't really know what they think anymore, and nothing much happens. So I think we need to have a clear end time when we really end. And I'm not opposed to beginning earlier if that makes that more possible. But I don't think we should keep extending that time. You know, there's a point where I think we become unproductive because we've just been meeting too long.
Yeah. I think I said Commissioner Cannoli next.
Commissioner Grossman took the words literally right out of my mouth. I definitely agree with that. I think that we should definitely start this meeting around like 6:30, 7 and end an hour and a half to 2, because again, we will not progress if we have this this meeting lasts for 3 to 4 hours. So we do need a specific time where we will end and not continue to extend it 3 and 4 times.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguillo.
Yeah. So why don't we just meet twice per month? You know, I know we only meet once per month, but why don't we meet every 2 weeks? That way we could talk about stuff, you know, more often. We wouldn't have to wait a whole nother month. And then our meetings can be shorter because we have them twice as often. So that's a suggestion, okay, for everybody. We can meet twice a month, have shorter meetings. So I know maybe city staff, maybe Ann can help me out here. If we cut the meeting into 6 o'clock, 6:30 dinner time, how does the light fare work, Ann?
There's no light there.
It's just for city council?
Correct.
Darn. Well, okay. Well, I guess city council has got some extra perks, which is nice. Okay, so I don't know if we want to meet twice per month. If we want to do earlier, that's fine with me. You know, staying awake at nighttime. Yeah, Mr. Grossman, you're right. City council meetings last till midnight sometimes. You know, what are we doing trying to make decisions at midnight? I mean, everybody's asleep. You know, we're trying to make decisions, big whole decisions for the city in the middle of the night. So I'm all for earlier meetings, but the last part I want to note is, how are we going to notify the public of this meeting change? Because the city council meeting started early last night, and a lot of the citizens in Albany didn't get the memo. It's just an abrupt change. And so if we're going to make our meetings sooner, we've got to do a huge outreach in the community and let everybody know what's going on. Thank you.
Commissioner Bain and then Lindsay.
Yeah, so I totally support moving the meeting time earlier. I suggest 7 o'clock. I think 6 or 6:30 is a little too soon for too many people. They might be just getting off work or still eating dinner, and it would kind of decrease our public engagement. And the whole purpose of this is to increase public engagement. And then I also like the idea of seeing if we can meet twice a month. I think we would be a lot more productive and be able to do a lot more. Just seeing how long our work plan is and how many things we want to add, I think twice a month would really be beneficial to the citizens of Albany.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, this agenda was not that long, but we had a hard time getting through it because we all, you know, there was a lot of participation, shall we say, from the body, and it wasn't just me. You know, almost everybody did participate, and that's great. But you know, if we're going to try to get through stuff, you know, it gets really tricky. So, you know, and what wasn't clear to me is, were we suggesting 7 to 9 or 7 to 9:30? When I was on the school board, the meetings would often go really, really late. And when I was on the city council of Gateview, it's not actually called the city council, but it's worse than the city council. You know, we would meet until 12 or past quite commonly while getting yelled at constantly. It was lovely. So, you know, it is a problem, but it's just, you have these agenda items you got to get through, you know, and it's just like, So yeah, maybe meeting twice a month. Hopefully my husband won't kill me. But it might not be a bad idea. We could try it anyway, especially early on while we're trying to, get sorted out and get going. And then it may be that once a month, when we're already meeting once or twice a month in our subcommittees that are working on other things, then at that point we might say, this is getting to be too much, right? It's getting to be too much. So anyway, we're saying start at 7 but finish at when? That was a question I'm asking. What are people proposing here? I think it's an interesting idea to do it twice a month. And the last thing is, I just think Commissioner Boehnen's points about starting before 7 p.m. are well taken.
I think they are why council decided on 7. I saw Commissioner Grossman first and then Commissioner Connolly.
I would like to move that we schedule our meetings from 7 to 9:30. I'm not opposed to the notion of meeting twice a month, but I think council will be. We would need their permission to do that, and there needs to be a staff person. And I don't think they're going to allow us to have a staff person twice a month. So I'm not opposed to the idea, but I doubt we get a permission to do that. But I move that we schedule the meeting from 7 to 9:30 on a regular basis. And, we need to make an agenda that can be done within that amount of time. Some things may need to be put off. We put off some things this meeting already. So now that we begin to have a sense of what we can accomplish, we'll have to make the agendas a bit shorter, I think.
I will do my best. Commissioner Cannoli, is there a second?
I second it.
Yeah.
Okay, or Commissioner Cannoli seconds it.
Yeah. I just want to make a quick comment also. I think, I definitely do second the 7 to 9:30. I know that we all have a lot to say about specific agenda items, but I also think there should be like some type of, I understand that the public comment does have like a 3-minute timer. I don't know either we have a timer even for ourselves when we speak, possibly 3 to 4 minutes or 4 to 5 minutes, something so that we can kind of be more organized to each agenda item when it comes to each commissioner, vice chair, and also chair as well.
Commissioner Zapata, your hand was up but went down. Would you like to speak?
No, I was going to actually second that, but I do, Jeremiah and I did some work outside of this commission, outside of the body, and I know we're really tight on time, but I do want to at least have a little time to report back on that.
Yeah. And Commissioner Garrett Pinquilla.
Yeah, so I mean, is there a motion on the table? I would motion to
there is
respectfully. I don't know what it.
The motion on the table is to change the meeting time from 7 to 9:30 p.m. and it has been seconded.
Okay, can we amend the motion to where we respectfully ask the city council permission to meet twice a month?
Staff, what is the procedure for that?
Requires a second. An amendment requires a second.
No, for asking council.
So you can vote on the time tonight, and you can vote on making a recommendation to the council to request for the frequency of the meeting.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion, Commissioner Gay-Pinquilla?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so that is a different motion, but I will take.
So is that a friendly amendment to the motion that's on the table? Correct. Or is this going to be a separate motion?
It's a friendly amendment for the motion that's already respectfully on the table.
Okay, is that
a friendly amendment? I have to accept it.
Correct.
I would be much more comfortable with it being a separate motion, because I'd like to get the time thing settled. And then we can have a motion about whether to meet more than once a month.
Okay, I'm going to say that's not a friendly amendment, So we're going to call roll on the motion that is on the table first. This is to amend time to 7 to 9:30 p.m. Laura?
Commissioner Baden,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo,
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman,
Yes.
Commissioner Canoli,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata,
Yes.
Chair Dostie.
Yes, that's approved. Do we now have another motion?
Yes, I have a motion to recommend to city council meeting twice per month, or however Ann worded that better than I did.
Okay. Do we have a second? No second for meeting twice per month.
I'll second that.
Okay. Call roll, please, Laura.
Commissioner Baden,
Just to clarify, this is a request to city council, right?
This
Because
is
they
a
have-
request.
Can there be, brief discussion before we have the vote?
There can. No one started voting yet. I believe that's okay, staff.
I think so.
All right.
I just, like really quickly, I think right now it's maybe a little early. I'd like to see what happens with a 2.5-hour meeting and where I love the idea of at least a suggested amount of time that people talk, because a couple times people did go on and on and on. And so keeping it to some number of minutes as a guidance at a bare minimum, I think would be a good thing. Plus we have an extra half hour. So I'd like to see what happens with that first. So I think I'm going to vote no, although I'm not, anyway.
Any other brief discussion? Commissioner Grossman.
I would just say again that I think it's a futile gesture. Council would approve it because it would open all the other commissions to make the same request, and they can't staff it. So I would probably abstain.
I will comment back that given that the Racial Equity Impact Plan took up all of SEJC's time for about 5 or 6 months and was meeting twice a month sometimes, there is some precedent for this possibly for us as a special case. So I personally think it is worth asking council, and that we would be more productive, especially right now, actually, in getting our work plan settled to begin to do other things. So I would rather that we do this now and ask. And with a new council and with the special circumstances, I think there's a possibility. It's their decision. And it would help us, and we could stop once it was no longer necessary. That is my personal opinion. Commissioner Canoli?
I think that we should do it twice a month. I think that the agenda items should be lessened, so that we can take full look at the more detail into our specific agenda meetings. But I don't think there should be twice a month, because I don't think the public could make it twice a month. I think once a month is great, but that's just
Okay. And we're at 9:44, so I'm going to ask for a motion to extend. And knowing that Commissioner Zapata, Vice Chair Zapata, wants to be able to present at least briefly, which I agree with. So maybe until 10. Do we have a motion, Commissioner Grossman?
I'll move to 10.
Do we have a second?
I said.
Commissioner Canoli, seconds. Vote, please, Laura.
Commissioner Baden,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo,
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman,
Yes.
Commissioner Canoli,
We didn't hear that.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata,
Yes.
Chair Dostie.
Yes. So we have until 10. Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo, I think you have your hand up for the brief discussion before we vote on this motion. You're still muted, though. It is, you lowered your hand. Okay.
It's okay. I just want to say, city council meets twice per month. Seems to be working for them. Well, all we're doing is asking for permission. They could say yes, they could say no. And even if they say yes, I don't think we've still all agreed as a commission, yes or no. So Once we get permission, then we can bring it up for discussion if that's best interest for everybody. It also does provide the public to get an extra public comment in once more per month. So it's a good opportunity to hear from the city or from the public who somehow missed the one meeting per month. They'd at least have another option to submit public comment.
For clarification, if it is put on the council's agenda, and if it is approved by council by a resolution to change the frequency of the meeting, it is set and done. It is twice a month. It is not coming back to you to see if you want to really pursue twice a month, just for clarification.
So we would have to request to go back to meeting once a month.
Correct.
Okay. Further discussion at that point. I think we're ready to think about that and vote. Okay. Roll, please, Laura.
Commissioner Bainan,
Abstain.
Commissioner Garrett Penguelo,
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman,
No.
Commissioner Cannoli.
No.
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 Commissioner Lindsay,
No.
Commissioner Zapata,
Yes.
Chair Dostie.
Yes, which I think brings us to a tie with one abstention. 3 yeses, 3 noes, 1 abstention.
So you did, the yes did not take majority, so the motion failed.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Interesting. Okay, I think that concludes item 6.5. So now we would move, I think, to 6-2, Homelessness and Housing Subcommittee, a brief report.
Okay. Yeah. Brief report. So there's 2 of us on the subcommittee, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I've been doing my outreach like I have been as just a person off the commission, and now on the subcommittee. Basically, I know it looks good. Homelessness and Housing Subcommittee. It's just dealing with housing. I don't know if we wanted to make it more broad to deal with, mental health or food disparities, because kind of homelessness is kind of about food and, housing and also medical situations, mental health. So whatever we want to name it is fine. Also, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to name it now, specific charge and progress. So, I mean, I have some ideas. Would anybody like to have some input on this as well, or?
So I will bring up again that staff has asked that this be narrowed to like a specific project so that it is not a standing committee, that it sounds limited in scope. And my opinion, or my impression, that's the word, my impression when we formed this was that it was to look at whether or not the homelessness task force would be brought back, and that was specifically what you were doing. And that involves looking into a lot of different aspects of it, but that is the ultimate end goal. And I realize we did not say that explicitly, but so that is my impression of what the charge was implied to be, and maybe what we should define it to be, but that is mine. So discussion. Commissioner Lindsay.
I mean, I thought that we were approving the beginnings of a subcommittee that could get to work on an item. And so my understanding was that we were forming a standing committee that was going to meet on the side, maybe involve some other people, because we did get approval for that. And in the community, and start getting to work, and they would decide maybe what the first thing they were going to do first, and would regularly report to us for suggestions and what their thoughts are, and we would give them feedback, stuff like that. Again, I do not accept staff's interpretation of the law on this. I just don't see it. As much as I love staff, I just don't see it. And I think we should stay out of the way and let them do their thing. However they think it best. But really, what we would want is come in and get a bang 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 thing of what your thinking is, and as a subcommittee, and the first things we're going to do is A, B, and C, and here's what's happening on A, and sort of something like that. So anyway.
Okay.
Oops.
And I saw that your hand was up. Are you going to?
Yes, just for clarification, this is directly from the city attorney. Definition of ad hoc committee versus standing committee. Ad hoc committees of a legislative body are not subject to the Brown Act if they are made up solely less than a quorum of the legislative body and serve a limited purpose that is not perpetual, and that will be dissolved once the specific task is completed. And she cited the government code section. The standing committee of a legislative body, irrespective of their composition, are subject to the Brown Act if they have either continuing subject matter jurisdiction or a meeting schedule fixed by charter, ordinance, resolution, or formal action of a legislative body. And that is also the reason why recently City Council had sunset 2 of their subcommittees.
And it does match my understanding of the Brown Act. But we will receive training on this mid-March.
Let me just say that I will accept that, that does ring true. I hadn't thought of it in that way. Yeah, it does ring true. So but does that mean we can't form any standing committees?
No.
So I also wanted to clarify earlier with the in terms of the time. Yes, staff is there's very limited bandwidth and resource for staff to have additional standing committee meeting. But the major reason is because if you look at our city council meeting, every single weekday, probably with the exception of Fridays, are taken up by a public meeting already.
City calendar, not
correct. So there is not a available day or date to have this standing committee.
That was, I will say that was true back in February, but looking at March and April, there appear to be some potential days. So,
what really bothers me here is that when I was on the school board and when I've been involved in city council stuff for years and years and years, there have been standing committees, and there were standing committees last year. When I say standing committee, that the committee is not perpetual, maybe that's the way out, but they're established for a certain period of time, and then they could be considered an ad hoc committee, and then we could say that the ad hoc committee is to work on homelessness and housing.
I'm gonna close that right now,
Okay.
because we are going to receive training on that in mid-March. Commissioner
Right.
Grossman.
Yes. Regardless of the issue of standing or not standing committees, I do think that there is an issue of breadth. Now, if you look at the old work plan, the focus, there was a housing committee, and its focus was on affordable housing, how to promote affordable housing, how to make people aware of what the issues were, and work to make people aware of what possibilities existed. So there's the housing side. On the homeless side, one of the things that I'm concerned about is bringing together a picture of what services we currently offer, such as Project Hope and Albany Cares, et cetera, how homeless people are being served by those and what needs are currently unmet. Because on the one hand, the report made by Project Hope to the council suggested that every homeless person in Albany was now housed. But there still seem to be homeless people. So there's some discrepancy about who's being served and how they're being served and what's adequate or inadequate in the services we have. I would very much like to see a group work on that question and come back to us with some clear recommendations about what, if any, services need to be developed.
I agree.
So that's my suggestion.
I agree. I think Commissioner Garrett-Pinguello.
Okay, yeah. So everything looks good. It's homelessness and housing. So, it's housing. It's about college students living in the village and can't pay their rent. It's about housing, which is 51% of Albany is renters. And so if we have some sort of renter thing, if we have, talk about eco housing, it could all fall under this subcommittee. It's not just homeless, an Albany Project Hope and Albany Cares. It's everything. It's homelessness and housing. So I think it's worded correctly. I like the title because it involves housing, which, it keeps a standing committee because there's always going to be something to work on with housing. There's always going to be evictions. We're in COVID-19 times right now. There's no eviction policy and all this stuff. So it's a really important subcommittee to talk about COVID relief for housing and things for college students.
The concern with a standing committee is it would have to be public, and the staff is stretched. So that is why we are looking at narrowing it. Again, we will receive a training mid-March. I hoped that we could at least figure out what we're doing until then. And I think that specifically looking at what could be accomplished in the near future, as suggested by, at what gaps there are to then work on in a longer form, as I think Commissioner Grossman was suggesting, is Commissioner Grossman's hand was first, and then Lindsay.
I'm basically what I'm suggesting is that we think in terms of two committees. That we have a committee on housing, which deals with the bigger question of how we're going to have some affordable housing in this community. There are a variety of rather technical possibilities in terms of a land trust, etc. The idea of perhaps providing down payment support for people, etc. So that's a whole kettle of fish there. And we did have a housing committee. What I'm suggesting is the homeless committee really focus on this question of assessing need. What do we need? And then we identify gaps and begin to work on them. So that's my suggestion.
And I think that this wording was chosen, as I recall, because housing was within our work plan, but homelessness was a little less directly. Commissioner Lindsay?
I want to suggest we move on to item 6.3. They've been waiting very patiently, and leave 6.2 unresolved. We can resolve it at the next meeting. It's already like 10 o'clock. So I make a motion that we go to 10.10 fixed, nothing beyond 10.10, and finish with the land acknowledgement subcommittee report.
That's a formal motion?
Yes.
Second? Anyone?
I second that.
Second.
Okay, roll please, Laura.
All right, Commissioner Bainan,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett-Pinguello,
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman. Is that a yes? You're on mute. Audible yes from Grossman. Commissioner Cannoli,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Yes.
Commissioner Zapata,
Yes.
Chair Dotsky.
Yes. On to item 6-3, land acknowledgement subcommittee report, please.
Okay, so this slideshow will help go over a follow-up to our last meeting. So what we talked about at the last meeting was getting Albany into right relationship with the Lijan Ohlone tribe. This is just a visual of the Bay Area, and this is originally Ohlone land. This is called Huichin, which is an ancestral homeland of the Chochenyo-speaking Lijan Ohlone people. Basically, it's important that we all understand that this area, which is the territory of Huichin, has been stewarded and taken care of by the Lijan Ohlone people. And it's important to notice that they say we did not own the land, we belong to it. The Confederated Villages of Lijan is one of the many Ohlone tribes, so with its own geography and lihistory. And Sugar-Sweetened Land Trust is basically connected to the Lijan Ohlone tribe, and is taking care of or addressing the land in Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, Piedmont, Emeryville, and Albany. So as a reminder, at our last SEJC meeting, rather than developing a land acknowledgement, we discussed this idea of getting in right relationship with the tribe. And what we mean by that is a relationship based on mutual recognition and reciprocity, and a relationship that recognizes the Lijan Ohlone as a sovereign tribe with knowledge and teachings to share, and with the city of Albany with resources to share as well. So what I want you all to know is that Jeremiah and I met with representatives, and we met virtually with them on Friday, this last Friday. And these were tribal representatives, and some of the collaborations that we brainstormed were a meeting between city council members and tribal representatives, an educational event to teach our community about Ohlone history, which actually, interestingly, was mentioned during public comment, as well as a visit with tribal representatives to future SEJC meetings, which they are open to. The image on the screen right now says what collaboration may look like. So this is, as was mentioned, with Sophie, I can't remember, anyway, one of the Berkeley City Council members sponsored Karina Gold, who is the person we met with on Friday, to discuss the colonization of Ohlone people. So this is just an example of what our collaboration could look like, a Zoom meeting that teaches the interaction, or really the history of the land on which we exist right now. As well as I wanted to show this image of a Zoom meeting from the Berkeley Center for New Media, which is another conversation with Karina Gold from Sugar-Sweetened. And so lastly, whoops, that's not going to happen. Lastly, the proposal was to host an educational event in collaboration with Sugar-Sweetened regarding the history of Albany, to begin the teaching and learning that needs to take place within our community. And this could be a collaboration with city agencies, community groups, as well as other commissions. The second was to urge our city council to begin meeting with representatives from the Lijan Ohlone tribe to begin the process of relationship building and collaboration. And lastly, to invite tribal representatives to an upcoming SEJC meeting to connect and build relationships. So this last slide here is just looking specifically at ways forward that were brainstormed, and I actually think are really viable and could be a way that we could kind of get the ball rolling on some concrete actions that come out of this commission. So specifically, the three things were an educational event, all of us speaking to our council members that appointed us and urging them to meet with representatives, and then lastly, inviting a representative to come when we have space on our agenda to meet. So I think that just within the time that's allotted, I as a teacher and an educator myself, I think the educational piece is really critical and could have a lot of traction. But I'm not exactly sure how to urge the city to make that happen. So I'm not really sure what a proposal looks like that basically gets the city to use its resources to arrange this virtual event.
Thank you for that presentation. Staff, can you briefly, would that be a recommendation to council to hold that event with SEJC offering to assist with coordination?
I think that it would be, I mean, in my dream, it would be SEJC in collaboration with the council hosts, yes, and then other community groups. So it could be a big collaboration, but yeah, having the council involved in it, I think would be ideal.
Staff, would that go through like a recommendation?
You could do a recommendation, but the other option is, as Commissioner Zapata mentioned, that you can talk to your respective city council that appointed you.
Okay, thank you. I saw Commissioner Grossman and then Lindsay. We're all muted.
Sorry about that, Chair.
That's all right.
I like this proposal very much, and it seems very doable. I think we could recommend this event to council. If it's we have to recommend it to council because it's going to take staff time to arrange, and it's going to take space. And it would be nice if it was a nice community event and it had kind of a festive feeling to it as well as an educational feeling. It would be nice if it could be done publicly, even with distancing, so that we could actually see each other. I think the notion of meeting with SEJC, meeting with representatives, is something we can just do. We have a right to have presentations. This is a group in the community that we want to hear from. So I suggest we simply schedule a presentation, and that we then make a recommendation to council to have this event, which I think would lead pretty organically to other contacts.
And with 2 minutes left to cover future agenda items too, Commissioner Lindsay.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I would just, if that proposal had been a motion, I would have voted yes. But at this point, we have no time left. So can we just put this at the top of the next agenda, is my request. And let's move on to the future agenda items because we have almost no time left.
Okay, I agree on all points. I think it was a great set of proposals. Request for future agenda items, Commissioner Bainan.
Yeah, on the future agenda, I would like to make a request to form a subcommittee to review the youth task force and the viability, hopefully on the next agenda, and an ad hoc committee because it has a limited scope and it's not perpetual. So, and it's already been proposed by the public, and I think that's definitely something that needs to be discussed.
Okay, I would say I think that sort of thing can go just under the work plan discussion in the future. Proposing subcommittees doesn't have to be separate from work plan discussion. That's how we've done it thus far. But noted. Commissioner Lindsay.
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. I'd like to add in here setting goals, measurable and with due dates. A discussion of the kind of a chilling effect that the Brown Act can have and what wiggle room we have. People can feel isolated, and also how to communicate with council to get work done and stuff. And then Commissioner Grossman brought up an interesting point about the type of minutes. It's a complicated discussion, but I think we should talk about action minutes versus other kinds of minutes per his point. As a matter of respect to that commissioner, and it is an issue. So that's it.
Other last second, Commissioner Garrett Pinguello, and then Cannoli.
Yeah, future agenda items. $15 minimum wage
New
for
future agenda items, please.
future agenda items.
New
ones.
future agenda
Oh,
items,
new future agenda items. Okay, not pending ones.
not pending
Okay.
ones. And we are over time now.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Can we have a motion to extend?
I move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, and I will just adjourn us, actually. Okay, thank you.